All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Good morning and welcome to All Up in Your Small Business, a webinar series hosted by the Greenville Eastern North Carolina Alliance. Thank you all so much for being here today. My name is Julia Davis, Marketing and Investor Relations Coordinator for the Greenville E&C Alliance, and I'll be moderating today's webinar. If you're not familiar with our organization, let me provide a bit of a background. We are a public-private partnership focused on promoting economic development in Greenville-Pitt County through industry recruitment, expansion and retention, development of sites and buildings, marketing and promotion of the community, workforce development, including talent attraction and retention, and small business and entrepreneurship efforts, which is why we're all here today. We're excited to host this webinar series on a monthly basis with speakers of various topics to help small business owners and entrepreneurs start, maintain, and grow their businesses. Today, we are honored to have Jerry Townsend, Business Development Specialist for the Rivers East Workforce Development Board, join us to share information about the valuable and free resources available to current and aspiring business owners. Just a few quick housekeeping notes before we dive into today's programming. If you have a question during the presentation, please drop it in the chat. There will be time for Q&A at the end of the presentation, but you're welcome to ask questions throughout the presentation, and they will be addressed at the end. Please stay on mute during the presentation. This webinar will be recorded, so if you have to leave early, we will send you the link to view the session within the next 24 hours. Now, without further delay, let's introduce Jerry Townsend. Jerry is a retired Master Sergeant with over 27 years in the U.S. Army and served in numerous overseas assignments and earned multiple awards, including the Bronze Star for his service in Afghanistan. After retiring in 2017, he became a consultant specializing in small business development and now serves as a business service specialist for the Rivers East Workforce Development Board, covering 5 Eastern North Carolina counties. Jerry holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in Organizational Management from Ashford University, and he and his wife have 2 children and live in Washington, North Carolina. Jerry, thank you so much for being with us today, and we're so excited to hear your presentation.
Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate the opportunity from, of course, Julia, Maria, and Baylee. They put this together and reached out for me to do this, and I was more than willing to do this. So what I'm going to talk about today is the American Rescue Plan Opportunity Act for small businesses, where it covers incumbent worker training for those small businesses less than 25 employees. The purpose of the grant, again, is to provide workforce solutions based on the employer's needs. I meet with employers, look at what their business model is, what the training they're looking for from their employees, how it's going to affect them not only today but tomorrow and 3 years, 5 years from now. Again, we also provide employer training through on-the-job training, work experience like internships, and of course, incumbent worker training. It focuses historically on underutilized small and micro businesses. Micro businesses are those 25 and less. Prioritizes industries with substantial occupational skills gaps and other risk factors. We support the North Carolina Governors Association for their support, hire, train, and retain employee fundamentals. Everything that these grants are designed to do is to focus on those. Ensure you're hiring the right people, you're training the right people, but more importantly, you're retaining the right people. Again, some defined outcomes is bridge the gap for business retention and expansion within the funding, OJT, WEX, and incumbent worker training. Establish continuous work-based learning opportunities with underserved communities. Training that needs to do industry-specific credentialing or certifications. And provide additional employment resources that will have an immediate and long-term effect on the employers and employees. Our target audiences are, again, like I said before, the small businesses. This is just a sample of them: manufacturing, agriculture, construction, health, human services, hospitality, and tourism. I can tell you that I have done more business with smaller, like accounting firms, insurance firms, things of that nature, where they have to have those continuing education credits because, again, they are certificate producing. So again, those things like that is really what has really benefited some of these smaller industries and businesses that you don't really think that would need it. Again, micro businesses, anything that we can do not to exceed 25 employees, not to exceed 5 employees. What constitutes training opportunities? Any training that, again, supports the hire, train, retain initiative set forth in Governor Cooper's First and Talent Plan and Job Ready Initiative. identified learning and training development deficiencies at initial and or additional training can help employees improve their skills and knowledge to effectively do their jobs in a more productive, efficient, or safe way. These initiatives and training will help develop employer-employee relationships that promote long-term successful employment opportunities. When I'm talking to employers out there, it's nothing better for them to go up and identify an employee and say, hey, I really like what you're doing. I think you bring added benefit and value to our organization. We have some training that we'd like to send you to. Would you be interested in that? That employee is going to really just sit here and just, they really think I'm doing a great job and they want me to, they're giving me tools and resources to succeed. So not only are they looking at from that standpoint of accepting that training and accepting that roles and responsibility, but now they're taking ownership in the organization itself. So you've got an employer who values the employee. Now you have an employee who values the employer. And as long as they're moving forward and doing those things, now you're retaining that force and really building that structure for your employees and your company for long-term success. Employer training, we do provide employer training as well. So we provide small businesses and entrepreneurs with enhanced services that are not easily administered through conventional or current workforce innovation or opportunity act guidelines. One of these initiatives is we actually partner with Keith Hudson and Pubnico Small Business Center to provide Ice House lessons from the Ice House training on leadership and entrepreneurship and how to not only start your business, but also how to build your business and make it successful. So again, we're doing different workshops of that nature through this grant as well. That way we're only taking a couple hours of your day, but you get those valuable, impactful information briefs on how to ask the questions, what if, and then go from there. Again, like I said, establish those workshops. More importantly, establish and provide a framework for exposing employers to new opportunities, different ways of thinking, and an avenue to develop their leadership skills that will translate to more effective employee engagement. These are just some of the credentialing and certifications. When I talk with employers, I always get them to think outside of the box. If we could do this type of training, who would be the training provider? How would it be provided? Do I need to send this employee to California, or is it something that we can do from a web-based? How is it going to impact the employee themselves? How is it going to impact the employer? What are the long-term effects? I want them to ask all those questions. And more importantly, 5 years from now, look at them 5 years from now, where that employee is going to be in what position. How are you going to grow that employee, but also how are you growing your business step by step? So again, these are just some different things. And I can assure you that some of these companies have really taken me to task, especially with my boss, Jenny Bowen. I'm always coming to her and like, hey, Pilot John wants to do a CEO coaching class that, it's a 6-month one-on-one mentorship program. It provides some credentialing. Is this something that we can cover? So I'm always really pushing her to say, hey, let's check on this. Let's ask the state. Let's look at the regs. And we always try to figure out how to make it work. So it's just off the wall things that you can think of as that you really, from an employer standpoint, you think will impact your business. Let's sit down and look at it and try to make it fit. But again, you're looking at hazmat, CPR, certified welder. There's just all kinds of different things: accounting, entrepreneurship, cosmetology. If it's a training that can be provided with at our local community colleges, we'd like to encourage that. As long as it is not a degree producing. So for example, I had a small mom and pop's little company that needed some small business marketing and also some small business accounting classes. We were able to get those set up through Pitt Community College. Again, it's 18 credit hours. They're there for 6 months worth of training, but it is a credentialing certificate-based type thing without getting a degree diploma. So if you're willing to put in the time and go to school in the evening or even during the day for a few hours for those times, that's something that we can do as well. But there's just all kinds of different things that you can think of. OSHA 10 classes, OSHA 30 classes, fall safety, prevention, things of that nature. We've done a lot of those already. The simple way to do this is contact me, but the grant process, Complete the pre-award questionnaire and submit it to Mitty's commission, which is basically me at the time. Complete and submit grant application packet from Rivers East Workforce Development Board. If you get the information to me, I will build the grant and do all the paperwork for you. Once the grant is approved, after the application is completed, we'll send it to the board for approval. Then a contract will be established between the administrative entity and the employer for the amount that we're looking at. So let's just say that the training, you're looking to train 3 employees. It's $1,000 training. And so we're going to do a grant for $3,000 to reimburse you for that grant. Then I would literally come out and do a contract, and the date that the contract is signed, you would have 12 months to complete that training and then submit for reimbursement. This is a reimbursement grant, so the employer has to play it up front. And once all the training is completed, the employer provides me with a certificate, a copy of the training roster where they attended this, the employees attended the training. Then we can go back and do a reimbursement. And again, these are the paperwork here. Submit a reimbursement request, which is the invoice and proof of payment for the training provider. A goal attainment report. The goal attainment report is basically what the employer, how that training for that employee impacted their business, but more importantly, the employee has to do one as well. What did they get out of it? It's a simple 12-question questionnaire. Just how we can determine the impact of the training for the employee and the employer and how it works. And then, of course, the trainee roster. Employers must pay for the portion of their costs providing the training to their employees. It's called federal share. So if you are 25 employees or less, your federal share is 10%. So anytime an employer sends someone to training, they're responsible for paying that person's hourly wage or salary while they're training, whatever the cost would be to send them to that training. So let's just say that you're doing a training class on leadership fundamentals, and you're going to send that person to Charlotte, North Carolina. They can drive there, but you still got to give them a hotel room plus pay them per diem. So your responsibilities as an employer would be to cover the cost to get the training there, get the employee there to and from, provide them per diem, any hotel, flight travel, any of those things, and your salary. That is your responsibility. So the overall grant, let's just say that grant was $3,000. Your federal share would have to be $300 of that. That's your 10%. And so when I do the budget worksheet, it'll write it up and show it that the grant is $3,000. You're sending 3 employees. The average cost to employee for an hourly wage for 8 hours worth of training is $20 an hour times 8 hours times 3 employees. That's the wage that you would put on there. And then it's going to, 3 hotel rooms and a $56 a day per diem to get them to there and back, travel, all of that round up. So that grant may wind up looking like on paper of about, $7,000, of which we reimburse you the cost of the training, the $3,000. Work experience and on-the-job training. So this is another factor that we offer and also is with the grants itself. So work experience is where you identify or we identify a candidate that you want to get some exposure to. And so they're interested in a particular career field with regards to, let's just say, a nursing. And we've got a small nursing home out here or a small doctor's office that we would like to place that particular individual with. We would generate a contract, work up a training plan based off of the job description that the employer has. And then we would authorize up to 400 hours of the work experience training where your team, your employer and your team would be providing exposure and hands-on opportunities for this particular individual to learn that skill set or get awareness of it. And we will pay that salary up to whatever prevailing wages you have for 400 hours. The candidate cannot work more than 29 hours a week. And it's great. We kind of use it, like I said, as an internship for those college students that have to have an intern program for whatever their degree process is. or for those high school students that are looking to say, okay, what kind of career do I want to have when I finally grow up and get out of high school and go to college? This is a great opportunity for employers to take advantage of this. Basically, I look at it as a long-term kind of interview process for 400 hours, because now you're getting that employee in there that it's not costing you any money, but you're investing a little bit of time to give them exposure and make sure that that's the employee that you want and that's the career field they would like to have. The other side of that is the on-the-job training contract. So let's just say that you have a intern that or a work experience candidate that's graduating college, but they've done their internship. You really liked the way they did that 400 hours. They were responsible. They were eager to learn, things of that nature. And you want to offer them a job on the and so we would come in and do a on-the-job training contract for the remaining up to 1,040 hours, knocking less the 400 hours. And we would do a skills gap analysis based off of what they've already done, their degree, what the job description is, and that'll determine what the amount of hours they would have remaining. We would then generate a contract where we would offset 50% of that hourly wage or salary for the remaining portion up to that 1,040 hours. So again, employers' criteria for reimbursement for training is we reimburse up to 50% of employees' gross wages paid during the training period, and that's excluding overtime, holidays, and PTO. The employee must be registered and approved in the WIA program. So on the OJT and the WEC side, the candidate has to meet certain criteria. They would meet with a career advisor at our local NC Work centers to determine the eligibility. And if they're eligible, then we can go ahead and initiate those contracts. The employer must not be paid. The employee cannot be paid in the form of a commission. It must be an hourly wage or a salary wage. And the employers must submit their time cards and employee pay stubs or payroll report with billing invoice to NC Works monthly to get reimbursed for this. The starting minimum wage for either one of these programs is $9.75 an hour. Again, if you're hiring someone for an OJT contract and their salary is going to be $39,000, whatever that hourly wage is for that salary, that's what we would initiate that as the contract is. What types of training will the board approve? The Rivers East Workforce Board will review and approve those grant applications that meet all the criteria set forth in the board policy guidelines. Each grant application is based solely on its own merit. Short and long-term benefits of training to the employer and employee. The training will increase productivity, efficiency, profitability, and competitiveness within the workforce. The whole idea is not only to retain your team, but to give them opportunities for upper mobility, potential pay raises, more responsibility. Again, that's what you're looking to do is to train your team for the longer duration of your business life, not to just do it for today only. If employee will retain employment due to training or receive additional compensations, pay raise, promotion resulting in the increased data skills, and was the training aligned to the specific needs outlined in the local incumbent worker training application. ARPA grant projected outcomes. Successful completion and implementation of the Ice House Entrepreneurship Program for small businesses and entrepreneurs. Again, those are trainings that we've had Keith Hudson do, and we've got some more planned coming up that I know Keith will probably be participating in, and a couple other instructors as we start planning out for 2025 with regards to trying to do these quarterly to cover all 5 of our counties. So these will be kind of anywhere short to 3-hour, 4-hour blocks of instruction up to a day. We're looking at doing a couple of different phases where there'll be a morning session and then there'll be an afternoon session. And then that's like phase 1. And then phase 2 would be a Zooms, basically one-on-one. So the employers and or employees can do their web-based kind of training on their own pace. And then we'll come back into a phase 3 at a later date and do a Zoom question and answer from what they've learned from all phases. So that we're kind of looking at trying to how we're making that work. And that'll be probably the spring of 2025. So we're excited about it. It's going to be a lot of fun and a lot of opportunities for employers to work at their own pace on this. Again, successful completion of all work-based learning initiatives and training hours, retention and growth of participating businesses, increased skills and knowledge of employees enrolled in work-based training, increased wages for employees of small businesses who participated in the program, and retention of skilled workforce within our workforce development board, and more importantly, those improved employer-employee relations. Any questions? Now, I normally I usually do this in front of people, so it's a little bit more interactive. So I apologize, but it's just an exciting program. We do a lot of stuff to make it work. As I was telling Julia and Maria when I got on board, just since April alone, we have provided grants for over 40 small businesses to the tune of $235,000 since April. And the impact that it's had on those companies and their teams, the feedback that we get is like, why didn't we know this before? So the whole idea of this is trying to get the word out there to small businesses that you have a partner out here who can help you with your training goals for your team, and do that on a reimbursement grant. Each grant cannot exceed $10,000. Each organization, each company cannot exceed $100,000 in a 2-year period. The ARPA grant is a specialized fund of money that will run out in December 31st of 2026. But then we also have Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act funds that renew every year. So there are always going to be some funding out there. It's on a first come, first served basis. So once you do we get the grant approved and we do the contract, that money is allocated and locked into you as an employer for the next 12 months. No one can touch it. A lot of these companies I have written multiple grants for. Right now I've got a company that I've written 6 grants for that's sitting in front of our board that's worth $46,500. Just waiting for the board approval. So again, don't think of just, oh, I get to do one training. Think of how many other multiple trainings you can do, and let's write a grant for all of them.
That is so exciting. Thank you for sharing all of that with us today, Jerry. And if we want to get started with some Q&A, if you have a question for Jerry, feel free to drop it in the chat and I'll moderate, and feel free to unmute if you have any additional context to share with your question. But while we wait for questions for Jerry, I would love to share that our next All Up in Your Small Business webinar is scheduled for Monday, November 18th at 11:30 with Emily Yeager. Emily currently works as an assistant professor in the Department of Recreation Sciences, and she also directs the Chris Small Business Resource Center at East Carolina University. She will discuss free resources offered by the university to small businesses, as well as grant and RFP assistance provided by the university as well. I'll go ahead and add the link to the chat to register in advance for this meeting. And if we don't have any questions for Jerry, again, I just wanted to say thank you for being here and sharing your time and expertise with us today. And thank you to all of you for attending as well. We hope that you have several takeaways from today's webinar and that it will help you grow your business. Just a reminder that if you joined late or if you would like to rewatch the content, this recording will be emailed to you along with the link to register for any other upcoming webinars as part of the series. We appreciate you joining us today, and we hope to see you next month.